Disc golf is a really growing sport for a lot of different reasons. It's really cheap, the rules are simple, and there's lots of courses to play. Like golf, you try to get from the tee pad to the hole in as few strokes as possible. However, in disc golf you use a disc instead of a ball. If you're playing in a group, after everyone tees off on a hole, the person who is farthest away from the basket throws next, and you repeat this until everyone finishes the hole. When you're ready to make another throw, it's important to stay behind your previous throw, or what's called your lie. You can use your disc for that, or oftentimes people use a mini marker. And it's important to make sure that you stay behind this mark before you throw again. On a throw, if you are 33 feet or 10 meters away from the basket, you're allowed to step over your lie as you throw. However, if you're inside of that distance, you need to make sure that you stay behind your lie until your disc comes to rest. A player finishes a hole when their disc rests in the basket. If you're playing in a group, whoever finishes with the least amount of strokes on the last hole throws first off the tee on the next hole. One thing that's great about disc golf is that you only need one disc in order to play. However, there are 4 types of different discs. The first and slowest type of disc is the putter. You're usually going to use the putter inside of 100 feet, especially when you're really close to the basket. You can also use a putter for straight flying shots from farther away. Second type of disc is called a mid-range. It's a little bit faster than a putter, and usually you're going to be using it when you approach the basket. Oftentimes it's a 100 to 200 foot shot when you're going to use a mid-range. The third type of disc is called a fairway driver. It's again getting faster than the mid-range. Oftentimes you're going to use these on longer holes, but not quite max distance holes. Fairway driver is just a little bit faster. The fourth and last type of disc is the distance driver. You're going to use a distance driver when you're really trying to crush as far as you can. It's got the sharpest edge. While these are for distance, oftentimes they can go right and left. So as the disc gets faster, it's going to be harder to control. So distance driver is the hardest one to control. Aside from putting, there are 2 main forms of throwing. You have your traditional backhand throw that comes across your body, like this, and then you have your forearm, which is also known as a flick or a sidearm. As we discussed before, there's lots of different types of discs. Those discs fly differently. As far as flying goes, there's 2 main different ways a disc flies: overstable and understable. For these examples, I'm going to be using righty backhand for all of them. An overstable disc is going to want to cut hard to the left. So it's not going to go very much to the right, it's going to want to go pretty hard to the left. So the second way a disc flies on the spectrum is understable. Understable is going to want to flip against the way the form wants to fade. So an understable with righty backhand disc is going to want to start to go to the right, and it may start to go back to the left, but it's going to have the middle of the flight is going to be to the right. Alright, so we've talked about overstable and understable. There's going to be discs in that spectrum. Drivers are going to want to be a little more towards whichever they are. So an overstable driver is going to cut more. Understable driver is going to want to flip more. Mid-ranges, because they're slower, often are going to stay a little straighter. So I'm going to try to throw this mid-range straight. Alright, so we've talked about how the discs themselves fly differently: understable, overstable, straight. But another key factor of how a disc flies is the angle at which you release it. So there's 2 types of angles. Again, there's a spectrum. You have a hyzer angle that is faced outer edge towards the ground. Hyzer is edge facing towards the sky. Same thing for forehand. Hyzer down towards the ground. and hyzer up towards the sky. And depending on how you release the disc, at what angle you release it, is going to heavily affect the flight of that disc. All right, thanks for watching. Hopefully after this video you understand the basics of disc golf a little bit more. Again, these are the basics. There's lots more inside of it, whether the types of discs, how they fly, the way to throw them. If you get the chance, go out, find a course, get a disc, and have some fun playing disc golf.